Shine. We are on the various social media platforms and we'd love to hear your views and questions about our show. Our handle is at Channel Africa 1, and also we are live streaming on that same handle on YouTube. Let's go back to Cameroon now. I understand, Paul, we have you better on the line now, and maybe we can hear you this time. Just describe for us again the mood there in Cameroon ahead of President Paul Biya's inauguration.
Well, the mood here, I'll describe it as a return to normalcy here in Yaoundé, in the capital city of Cameroon. There's a return to normalcy, even though we would acknowledge the presence really of a military presence to assure that the oath-taking ceremony or the inauguration ceremony of the president-elect, President Paul Biya, because as of this moment, he's still the president-elect. It's once he takes on the swearing-in ceremony at the oath-taking ceremony that he officially becomes the head of state for the ninth time, the ninth swearing-in ceremony, oath-taking ceremony, which will be effectively his eighth mandate. Today, actually, 6th of November. He's actually called sometimes the man of the 6th of November because it's exactly on this same date in 1982 that he took over power. On the 4th of November 1982, that's when Cameroon's first president, Amadou Ahidjo, resigned and then gave power to his constitutional heir, which was President Paul Biya, who was then the prime minister, to become the president of the republic. So there is a return to normalcy in the capital city and over the national territory as well. We're seeing gradually people begin to return back to their normal occupations and their work. So there's a gradual return to normalcy. That's the word I would actually put it on, because for the past couple of days and maybe the past couple of weeks, we've seen a climate of tension, post-electoral tension between the FSNT opposition party and the ruling party, CPDM, in terms of the, the description in terms of who won the election.
Yeah, given that, then how is the opposition reacting to this inauguration, and could their reaction have an impact at all in terms of proceedings today?
Well, today their impact, I don't think their impact will have an impact on the proceedings of today. What we're seeing really is in pockets of resistance where the opposition has electoral circumscriptions and controls of those electoral circumscriptions. We've seen more the government try to get into consultations and talks with a lot of the transporters and a lot of the populations. Day-to-day, those who do the regular day-to-day jobs, I would say in the markets, the buyers, the sellers in the markets, those who do the transportations, especially from the north, the corridors of the north. We've seen the government enter into negotiation and consultation talks with them, where they can provide them security in terms of the transportation of their trucks from corridors, especially if they go towards Chad and the Central African Republic. So therefore, we're seeing a gradual return to normalcy. So we don't anticipate, in terms of the proceedings and the oath-taking ceremony today, a major change. Also, there's equally the fact that many believe that Issa Chiroma Bakari, the president of the FSNC party, is no longer in Cameroon. Many believe he's in Nigeria. It is yet to be officially known. Many also believe that many of those who were part of the FSNC political party, many of them have left the country as well. So therefore, we're seeing more and more people going back to their day-to-day activities as well. So we wouldn't anticipate, in terms of Yaoundé, in terms of the security arsenal as well, that there will be any disturbance to the proceedings and the oath-taking ceremony today.
Who is expected to be in attendance at this inauguration in terms of dignitaries?
Well, that's a very good question as well. Well, we expect really most of the diplomatic corps that is represented in Cameroon. We haven't yet heard officially some major dignitaries that have announced for themselves in Yaoundé. But the ceremony starts at about 10:45 this morning. The President of the Republic, the President-elect, President Paul Biya, is expected at the National Assembly at 12 p.m., which will be 12 a.m. at noontime today. And that is precisely when, in terms of the constituted corps, members of the National Assembly, members of the Constitutional Council, because it is to be known the oath-taking ceremony in Cameroon is done in the presence of the National Assembly, in the National Assembly. The President of the National Assembly is the one who administers the oath-taking ceremony and the sermon, and the President pledges in front of the people, in front of the National Assembly, in front of the Constitutional Council that proclaim the result, and in front of also the Supreme Court as well, which handles all the jurisdictions and the court jurisdictions throughout the national territory and is the guardian of the Constitution. So in Cameroon, the legislature is much more presidential and Republican, so therefore the President of the Republic actually pledges his sermon in the National Assembly.
After 43 years in power, what are the key challenges and expectations for Biya's new term, and how might today's inauguration shape public perception, particularly the youth population's perception of him going forward?
That's the key question in this particular post-electoral crisis that we have seen. The population, as you rightly said, is 60 to 70% of youths. Many are waiting for the president's keynote address after his oath-taking ceremony to see in his profession of faith and his pledge if he's actually going to put out some public policy measures that would alleviate many of the questions that the youth have in terms of unemployment, in terms of development, in terms of infrastructure, also equally in terms of the diaspora, because many of them also want to be able to have double nationality. So that's a key part of this that's going to happen. Many of the opinion that the presidential election in Cameroon was a sanctioned vote towards not necessarily only the president of the republic, but equally towards really the apparatus in public service and in government as well. So it's left to be seen. The president of the republic, the president-elect President Paul Biya, has said he will be able to swiftly help the youth, help women, and equally trying to bring a change in terms of the status of the opposition. So there's a lot of expectation that's left to be seen. So it's a very key moment. If the expectations are to be met or not met, that would depend really now on the message that the President of the Republic does in his keynote address at the National Assembly today for us to be able to get maybe a reality on the ground to see if or not they were convinced or not convinced by his address to the nation.
So things seem to be returning to normalcy as far as internally in Cameroon. But these elections were contested. We touched on that. So how do you assess the significance of this inauguration when it comes to the international observers or those watching from the international front?
Well, because the elections in Cameroon have taken a credibility and a transparency hit, because the opposition views that the election in themselves weren't too transparent. And it goes back to maybe the electoral code, where many in Cameroon have been actually saying that they will need an amelioration of Cameroon's electoral code for its interpretation to be much clearer. So I think there's a hit definitely into the electoral process into Cameroon as to the image in terms of the credibility and the transparency. Now, mind you, Cameroon has moved in its electoral process where the elections were handled before by the Ministry of Interior. You had ONEL 1, you had ONEL 2, and now you have a LECAM, which is the organizing body that handles and manages the organization of elections. So therefore, there is a serious need really in terms of credibility and transparency to make sure that the electoral process and the electoral code is ameliorated, and many Cameroonians are waiting for that. So on the international scene, I think that's really the most important thing, that in terms of credibility and transparency, Cameroon's electoral process has taken a hit. Now it's left to be seen where the actors or the stakeholders of this electoral process, the political parties who are decrying foul, and the president-elect, President Paul Biya, who will be sworn in today, saying he is going to do all he can to be able to ameliorate the electoral code and equally ameliorate the status of political opposition parties in Cameroon. Many also, in terms of civil society, feel that this is probably a transitional mandate or the last mandate of President Paul Biya. So they're really waiting to see if, in terms of concessions towards the opposition, in terms of concessions towards the civil society, he will be able to enact public policy measures that will help everybody and sustain increased development and local development and import and substitution for Cameroon.
Paul, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for your update.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to you, Hassan, and to Channel Africa.
That was Yaoundé-based political analyst Paul Anchang sharing his insights ahead of President Paul Biya's inauguration. 8th term, 7 years. 7:31 Central African time it is. Let's say good morning to Onele Nzinzi. She has our news headlines.